against Sporting of Lisbon yesterday at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Oh, where do you want to start, Sim? Where do you want to start? But I guess we'll start at the beginning of the game, first half.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of fans were very angry at half-time. And I think that rightly
Boos
so.
again.
Boos again, very loud boos, which I completely disagree with. But I think that the way we started the game was very poor. There was not enough movement going forward. It was all very lethargic to sidewards and backwards and all that kind of stuff. But I think that, I know we went in 1-0 down, but we still had like a fair amount of chances in that first half, didn't we?
Yeah, we had a few. Kane had one. Lucas was played through by Kane as well. He probably should have done better. We had a few, like, apart from that Lucas chance, the other ones are a bit like half chances-ish. I think they all happened in, like, say, the first 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And then after the first 20 minutes, we kind of stopped being so intense with our press. We kind of were being a bit lethargic. We were being very, very standoffish. We were... and it was really poor for the latter part of that half. We were kind of allowing Sporting Lisbon to dominate. We were allowing them to just play the ball around without much confrontation from our players. It was really hard to watch at times. They had that one chance through Paulinho, which he volleyed over the bar, which was poor, and then obviously they had the goal from Marcus Edwards, which again our players were standing. I mean, it's a great goal, but the players are standing off him for far too long. We've got two defenders there.
It's not only that. I mean, yeah, Romero keeps backing off.
And Davis as well.
And Davis. But where's Dyer? Dyer's absolutely nowhere to be seen. He got completely caught out. And then, you know, how many times is this going to happen with Eric Dyer? He just gets completely caught out in no man's land, and the other team take advantage. But it's still not good enough from Romero and Davis to keep backing off. Although I did think Romero had a fairly strong game on a whole, but in that moment was not great from him.
Yeah, and once we went 1-0 down, the confidence was sapping out the team from that in that latter part of the first half, and you could hear the crowd getting audibly frustrated with how the performance was going. I think they were frustrated in two phases. When Sporting had the ball, we were just not getting near them. We weren't pressing very intensely. We were kind of just jogging around and allowing Sporting to play it around, which was very frustrating. And then when we did have the ball, we were just kind of labouring side to side. We played to Dyer, then to Romero, who'd play back to Dyer, then to Davis, to Bentancur, back to Dyer. It was like going nowhere basically. It was just sideways and backwards without getting the forward players involved, and the crowd were getting very frustrated with that. And I think that's what led to, at half-time, those frustrations basically bore out at half-time when we were 1-0 down, playing that way on and off the ball in a really disappointing manner, and that led to the boos.
Why does it keep happening, though? Why does it keep happening? Why do we keep playing first halves like this? I mean, we get it at the back, getting it in possession, passing it around the back, and there's just no movement at all in front of them. I mean, what are they supposed to do?
Yeah. No, it's not good enough. And it was interesting to hear Hugo Lloris talk after the game, and he said that given the current schedule, it's very difficult to play at the intensity that we want to play for the whole 90 minutes. And he said that you're going to have to go through 20 to 30 minute periods in the game where you're not as intense as we want to be, and it's our job in those moments to make sure we're not conceding chances, so that when we do play, we do get to that intensity that we want to, and we do get on top, we can take full advantage as opposed to chasing the game. And that was interesting to hear him say that, because that kind of hinted as to why maybe our games have been pretty much played in periods a lot of the time this season, where we have had periods where we're on top and looking intense, and then we've had a lot of periods as well where we're playing deep and we're just being compact, and we're not kind of putting a lot of risk and playing very pragmatic. So it was interesting.
For other teams, though, are other teams like going in waves as well, like we are, or is it just us at the moment, or is it just like a Conte tactic?
I don't know. It's difficult to say. I think the big difference, for example, when you look at someone like a team like Arsenal, just for example, I think the big difference between them and us, obviously we have different styles of football. That's obvious. But when it comes to the pressing and being very intense, they have a very, very young team, and it's a lot easier to keep up that kind of intensity for longer periods when you have a younger team who are a lot fresher and have boundless amounts of energy. Especially when you look at the front line, that's the most important thing for me. Their front line is Saka, Jesus, Martinelli, Odegaard, all very, apart from Jesus who's 25, they're all quite very young players.
He's fairly young.
And he's fairly young. So they can literally run all day. It reminds me, as we said before, the reason why it reminds me of that Pochettino team isn't because they play in a similar way. It's because the intensity of how fresh they are as a young team. They can just run all day. I remember that Pochettino team, they used to suffocate teams for 90 minutes and literally just run for 90 minutes. And it was hard to live up to. Now, the problem we have is that obviously when we have Kane, Son and Lucas, who are now either 30 or approaching 30, it's not to say they're bad players and they can no longer press, but they have to be smarter. They have to manage themselves. They have to manage their body. When you get to that age, it's only natural. As Kane and Son, as good as they are and as brilliant as they are two of the best forwards in Europe. They can't press for 90 minutes. That's just reality, I think, at this stage. I think they have to choose, they have to pick their moments when they can really press intensely and when they have to manage themselves. And especially with Kane, who he knows, he's picked up various amount of injuries in the years gone by. He knows that he has to be smarter now and he has to manage himself. And I think every player does when they approach that age. And I think that's maybe a lot of the times what we're seeing, while we can't press from the front as intensely all the whole 90 minutes as we can, when we do it, we look good, but it seems as though we can't do it for 90 minutes. And a lot of the time it's because the team that we have just isn't that young team anymore. And
do you think
that's a big part of it.
Conte mentioned at the end of the last game against Newcastle that, if we weren't in Europe, if we only had one game a week, we could fight for something important. Do you think that if we did have one game a week, then we could press for the majority of the game?
Yeah, that helps. Of course it helps, because having an extra game leads to more fatigue, of course, and especially with Kane and Son when they have to play every minute because they're so heavily relied upon, especially now with Richarlison and Kulusevski injured. 100% that plays into it. If we had a bigger squad, it would be less of a problem. Even though we did get more depth in the summer, it's still not enough depth for what we need, and especially now with the injuries we have. Of course, it's going to hurt us. That's not to say if we had Kulusevski and Richarlison both fit right now, it would be less of a problem. I really believe that, because you could alternate. You could give Son a rest here and there like we did against Leicester. Even Kane, potentially one game, you could put Richarlison up front. But right now, we can't do that. We have to heavily rely on them, and obviously that's going to hurt us. No doubt about it. So playing 2 games a week, look, that's all top teams have to do it, so you can't complain about it, but that's going to hurt us right now. Not to say in the second half of the season, if we get through in the Champions League and maybe we have a signing or two and we get the players back fit, maybe it'll be less of a problem, but right now 100% it is a problem.
Yeah, and you can definitely see that bearing out. In terms of the stats from the game, let's have a look at the first half stats.
One
anyway.
Sec. I think it's disconnected. Let me just reconnect. Yeah, got... Yeah, just give us a sec. There you go. All right. Yeah, okay. So that's the stats overall. So as you can see, overall, it was much more in our favour. We had 18 shots, 7 on target, 8 off target, compared to theirs 10 shots, 4 on target, 6 off target. Big chances, all 3 each, to be fair. So they did have some big chances during the game. But if you look at the first half, it's such a difference. So the first half, to be fair, it's not like they completely dominated, but it was a much more even game. We had 4 shots, they had 4 shots. We had 2 on target, they had 1 on target. Big chances, they had 1 big chance, we didn't have any big chances. Shots inside the box, they had 3, we had 2.
Was this overall the first half?
This is just first half.
Yeah.
We had 4 shots each, so it's not like they were like battering us, but it was definitely like a close game. And
what people are angry about is not that we were being dominated, it's just that we weren't doing anything in the game. We were just passing it sideways, backwards, there was no movement, it looked so lethargic. That was the issue. I don't think it was an issue that they were battering us or anything, and you can see that in the timeline there.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if you look at the progress bar, or whatever you want to call it, obviously they scored, but it was very much fairly even in terms of like threat, chances created. Maybe you would probably argue Sporting was slightly better, but I don't think there was much in it in that first half, apart from obviously the goal. But then you look at the second half, just look at the stats, it's complete difference. We had 14 shots compared to their 6. 5 on target. We had 3 big chances in that second half, missing 2 of them. But to be fair, on the breakaway, they also had 2 big chances. So they would argue they would argue that they could have had the game sealed even at 1-0. They had some chances to seal the game on the breakaway. But definitely we were having the better of it. We were having the more chances. And if you look at the progress bar, look at that. Look how much of a difference that is. It's literally all Spurs, apart from there's a little spell there you can see near the end of the game where Sporting got on the counter, which was when their chance. But if you pretty much the whole half was Tottenham.
But those chances they did have on the counter
were good chances,
big chances. You know what I mean? Lloris comes rushing out. They have an open goal. What did you make out of that Lloris?
No, that everyone comes back to that. He was offside. The flag was up, so he came. True. Yeah, so he came rushing out, but the guy was offside. But the ones that they did have were, I think it was Gomez was played through 1-on-1, and Lloris made a massive save to keep the score at 1-0. And then I can't remember who it was. There was a player on the right hand side had a shot across the face of goal. Lloris palmed it back into their striker, and he kind of had an empty net, and he rushed the finish and he put it wide. So those were 2 big opportunities they had to make it 2-0, which probably would have sealed the game. But before that and after that, their keeper was making some really big saves.
He was, and you could see the complete attitude and from the fans and from on the pitch completely changed as soon as the players came out for that second half. I mean, from the first minute we were going straight at them, creating chances. Probably should have got back into it in the first 10 minutes of the second half, to be honest. But it took us all the way down till the 80th minute to go and equalise. Brilliant goal. Corner comes in from Ivan Perisic. Bentancur leaps above their goalkeeper, heads it into the back of the net. A lot of people thought it was a foul and stuff like that, but I mean, how can you say that was a foul? That was the cleanest header.
At the time, I was a bit worried because obviously when a keeper gets challenged like that, or when it looked like it, obviously he was complaining, the goalkeeper, he was angry. 9 times out of 10, when you see something like that happen at a corner, the foul usually gets given. But I was having seen the replay, it's a clear goal. Bentancur just out-jumps Adnan, who had a brilliant game, you have to say. He was making a series of saves before that. It looked like it was going to be his day. But I think he just flapped at it. Bentancur just jumped. He didn't even have his arms on him or anything. He literally out-jumped him, and that was it. He headed it home, 1-1. And it's really impressive as well that at 1-1, we got the goal fairly late on with 10 minutes to go. And the amount of chances we created in that last 10 minutes was crazy. We created so many. Dyer had 2 gilt-edge chances. So we had Bentancur with a gilt-edge chance, and then we obviously had the goal with Harry Kane. So
Dyer actually could have scored a hat-trick yesterday.
Yeah, he should have scored a hat-trick.
He had that one early in the second half, didn't he? But that was a much harder chance than the other 2. But the other 2 were point-blank range. You've got to be putting those away. At least one of them, you know what I mean? Like, they were so easy, those chances.
Yeah, that one where he hooked a volley, hooked a volley over his shoulder, which would have been a nice finish, but it was a good save from the keeper. Then obviously he had that one which was an absolute peach of a cross from Son from that free kick. What a free kick that was.
Amazing.
That was a cross of the night, I think. A brilliant cross from Son. How he didn't put that away, I don't know. And then he had that header from Longley. What a brilliant ball from Longley as well. That was really good build-up between Perisic and Longley. Longley gets in behind, does a really great cutback, and Dyer again missed it. So there was 3 unbelievable misses from Dyer.
Yeah, another talking point of the game yesterday was Bryan Gil comes on. I thought he definitely added something extra to our play yesterday. He was getting in some really good attacking positions, taking on his man, getting crosses in the box, and he influenced the game in a positive manner yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, you can even represent this. If I show you something on Twitter, one sec. Let me just get it up. I think I liked it. Here. So this is our expected threat. That purple line here, as you can see, that represents when Bryan Gil came on as a sub. And look how much of a difference he made. We were so much more threatening as soon as he came on compared the green bit is Spurs and the orange bit is
and it
Lisbon.
wasn't coincidence as well, because sometimes you make a change and doesn't make any relevance to the player, but you improve your performance in the last part of the game. But Gil was actually involved in pretty much everything going forward, and it was great to see.
Yeah, I was really happy with him. Not only was he giving the energy, which he always does, the boundless amount of energy and winning the ball back and making tackles. He was actually, first of all, he was helping us. what do you call it? He was helping us suffocate Sporting throughout the game by pressing high and helping us keep that energy there. Not only was he doing that, but he was winning free kicks. He won the free kick, which led to that brilliance on free kick we're talking about, which Dyer had the header. He was being a threat from dribbling situations on the right hand side as well. He helped linking up with the players on the right hand side. He should have had an assist when he lays one off for Bentancur really well, and he just seemed he brought new ideas to the table. He was in swinging crosses, some of them dangerous, some of them not, but he was just bringing new stuff to the table, and it was a breath of fresh air him on the pitch, to be honest. I was really happy with him. It's not like, you know, he had loads of shots or anything like that and it looked like scoring, but he just added an extra element to the creation and the energy, and he really benefited the team when he was on there.
Yeah, and we really needed it at the time. He did a really good job for the team. In terms of people calling for him to start for Bournemouth, what would you say to them? Because me personally, you know, it's very different playing in Europe, first of all, than playing in the Premier League. The Premier League is super, super physical. I know it's against a Bournemouth side, but they're more physical than maybe they were last time they were in the Premier League. And I think that people still need to calm down a bit with Hill. You know, it's a couple of good cameos in European games, but physically he's still not there, in my opinion.
I agree with you. I do completely agree with everything you're saying, but I would start him because we need him, because we don't have Kulusevski, we don't have Richarlison. Lucas, I thought, was terrible. He was really frustrating yesterday.
He really was.
And we just need a bit more support for Kane and Son going forward. I wouldn't want us to play 3-5-2 against Bournemouth. I do want to play the 3-4-3 because I think we do in general going forward look better in that formation right now anyway. So from that point of view, as much as I don't think Hill's the saviour, I just think having him there might benefit the team more positively, and maybe it could be a case of because sometimes a manager for one reason or another just either doesn't fancy a player or doesn't think he's up to it, and then for through injury or for a bit of luck they just get a run in the team, and all of a sudden that can change. And maybe this is Hill's time. Maybe this is something that can change for him.
For me, I mean, I was saying this to you last night. Like, I feel like he would help the team more coming on when we're pushing for a goal, maybe the last half an hour, last 20 minutes to get against a bit of tiring legs, because he's just a bundle of energy. And I feel like maybe if he started the game with everyone, you know, not using up any energy, he might get a bit lost in the game at times because of his physicality. But I think coming on in the last 20 minutes could be a different kettle of fish where he's coming on against tired legs.
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't start him in Marseille, but Marseille is now a massive game, so we can't afford at the moment to rest players in that game. So we have to go full strength, and I don't know if any of our strikers like Kulusevski or Richarlison are going to be fit for that, but if they are, we're going to have to play them there. And I would play Hill against Bournemouth. Give him a chance. He's come on. He's benefited the team positively. I'm not saying he's the saviour, but I would give him a chance against Bournemouth. I don't see the harm in doing that, considering he's benefited the team. And the fact that Lucas was terrible. So why not just give him a go? And if it's not working, you have Lucas to come on anyway, and maybe he can be a good player to come on as a sub. So I would. I'm not saying that Hills now should be a starter, but I'm saying I would start him against Bournemouth and give him a go and see how he does. And I think he's I wouldn't say earn a start, but I would say it wouldn't do. I think it's just good to see what you can do from the beginning, and maybe it could benefit us and just take the burn a bit creatively off like Kane.
Were you saying 3-4-3 with Gil on the right?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Give it a go.
I know you got a lot of things to say about the next topic in terms of Emerson Royale's cameo yesterday with his no-look pass, but to be fair to them, he was the one that got the assist for the offside goal.
I mean, it's hard to call that an assist when he plays it backwards off a Sporting player and it deflects into Kane's path. You know what I mean?
Give him the credit. Come on, man.
I don't even know if FPL would have given him that assist, let alone anyone else. But I thought he had a shocking cameo, to be honest. I was really disappointed with him. I was about to show the no-look pass, but apparently it's been taken down, that video, so I can't show it. But
everyone's seen it.
Everyone's seen it. I mean, at the time I was in the stadium, obviously, and he did that pass. I didn't know it was a no-look pass at the time. It was at a time, I'm not sure if it was a 1-0 or 1-1, I can't remember, but obviously we're desperate for a goal. And it was such a simple pass in behind to Brian Hill, who was on the run, and he overhits it. Such a simple pass, right? A non-league player could have played that pass. And that was really frustrating. And then to see on social media later on that he's actually done a no-look pass to try and be a bit flashy. And he does it and then overhits it. I mean, how stupid do you have to be in that kind of situation?
There's nothing you can do to make that seem any better than it is. Like every time you look at that no-look pass from Emerson, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. Like, what the hell are you doing at that stage in the game when we're pushing for a goal? To do that, and not only to do that, but for it to just treacle out of play as well.
Yeah, terrible, absolutely terrible. And then he had another moment as well. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Lucas. I think he does like a nice little clever pass over his head, and then Emerson turns and just and he sticks out a leg and he just fouls one of the Lisbon players, and it went again from a moment of us putting them under pressure to Lisbon having a bit of reprieve and having a free kick, and that was also really frustrating.
Conte's reaction to the no-look pass.
Yeah,
it's just like, what the hell are you doing?
I know he was not happy.
What are you doing?
He was not happy. So I thought it wasn't a great cameo from Emerson. I don't know why in that situation when we need a goal, why not just give Spence a run? I don't know. He would rather Emerson there than Spence. I commended Conte because at 1-0 when he brought on Hill, it would have been very easy to bring Hill on for Lucas and keep Doherty there, but he actually went really attacking, put Lucas at wing back, put Hill in that number 10 position and really went for it. But unfortunately, he was let down by Lucas, who I thought was really poor in the number 10 position, and he was really poor at wing back as well, and he had to come off, and he lost energy near the end as well. So it was a really poor Lucas performance where we really needed him to step up. And one thing's really frustrating. Again, sometimes Lucas gets in this mode, and he was in this mode yesterday, whenever he gets the ball, he has to beat someone. He has to take someone on before releasing it. Lucas, and it's so frustrating. It is so frustrating because you see Kane and especially we see Kane and some of the other players who make really clever passes, who know where the opposition are. They know when it's time to dribble and time to pass. But Lucas just thinks it's always time to dribble, always. And then once he's got past someone, then he can pass it. And he can't pass it unless he's beaten someone. And it leads to some really frustrating situations. And then there was one moment where he did really well, and he finally beat his man and got beyond and got on the right hand side. And all he had to do was put a good cross across the face of the goal, and he decides to shoot from a tight angle instead of crossing it, and the chance was gone. So it was even when he did do something good, it ended off with something bad. So I thought, very frustrating for Lucas.
I thought Lucas was very frustrating yesterday. I thought the majority of the team were frustrating. Look at Højbjerg, I thought Højbjerg was horrible in that first half. He couldn't do anything right, to be honest, and he was getting a bit dominated in that first half. Second half, he came alive, and he went through that kind of darting run through the middle of the park, and from there it seemed like spark life into the whole Tottenham team, and he had a brilliant performance from them, driving the team forward. And the same with Bentancur. Well, Bentancur was absolutely brilliant all game, to be honest. He was a shining light throughout the game, and again, like, he's the one that got us the goal, obviously, and he also as well was driving through the heart of their midfield, driving through the heart of their defence a few times, to be honest, Bentancur. And we're seeing in this like new version of Bentancur the last few games, or the last few weeks, even the last few months, to be honest. And he's been our best player this season, I think. I think that even you could say he's been better than Højbjerg, to be honest.
Recently, I wouldn't say over the whole season. Recently, I definitely think he's been better than Højbjerg. And he's had and to be fair, he's had a strong season overall. I would say overall, I still think Højbjerg's been better. But Bentancur's
definitely up there in the running when you're talking about player of the season so far. He's definitely in the conversation.
Yeah, and I think he's recently he's really stepped up, especially at times where we've been quite poor. He's been like our only shining light. And yesterday, I wouldn't say he was our only shining light, but I think he was our best player, and he was actually making runs beyond the Sporting defence. He nearly got an assist for one of Dyer's chances as well. Obviously, he got the goal from the header. I thought he was great. I was really happy with Bentancur. I thought his passing was crisp, and he was as well. Even I think later on, I think Basuma stripped off, but I think in the end he decided not to bring him on because Bentancur was just doing such a good job for the team. Even though I think his legs were tired near the end, I thought he was thinking of bringing him off, but he still he kept him on. He did a brilliant job, and Tyler's job when it comes to Højbjerg. I thought when it came to Højbjerg for the first hour or so, I was like, okay, maybe I'm seeing why he was rested, because he looked so leggy. He looked really tired. He wasn't getting close to anyone. He wasn't getting forward. He wasn't taking people on.
Where the hell did he find that energy from?
Yeah, I don't know. It was really strange. It was like all of a sudden he found energy from somewhere, and then he became really energetic, and he was closing people down. He was running beyond the Sporting defender. And he was dribbling and doing really good stuff on the ball. And I thought for that last half an hour, I thought he was actually our best player. I thought he was really good. I was really happy with him. And same, I think, maybe you could say for Perisic, who wasn't amazing for an hour or so. And he actually had, again, Session was stripped off, ready to come on. And then for the last half an hour, for the last bit of the game, he started taking on his man and getting some really dangerous crosses in there, and actually started being dangerous, and obviously got an assist, and should have maybe could have a bit of an assist for the second goal as well with a really deep cross. And I thought he ended the game really strongly. We did end the game strongly, and obviously we got that goal, which was disappointingly ruled out. But there was some really good positives and good performances to take in there. But in terms of the goal, I guess let's discuss it. Let's look at the still image. You can see from yesterday. That is the offside, which I think it's just so frustrating, isn't it?
Kane is offside. Kane is offside, but I mean, and automated goal line technology was used. Semi-automated goal line offsides were used, right? And the reason why it took so long for them to make the decision, because they were trying to see if it was a deliberate act from that Sporting
Why is that taking 4 minutes to decide?
I don't understand why that's taking 4 minutes. And if it's taken 4 minutes, like, surely that there's like it's not clear and obvious as well.
But then that goes down to clear and obvious. I understand.
So an offside doesn't go down to clear and obvious, but like the intentional action of the defender does. Surely.
Exactly, that has to go down to clear and obvious. So if they can't decide whether he's done that a deliberate action or not, and it's fallen to Kane like that, I think if it's taking 4 minutes and it's not clear and obvious, and they should give the goal. Look, you could argue either way. It's a close call, to be fair, whether you think that's a deliberate action or not. But I think that in that case, they probably should have stuck with the on-field decision if they were taking 4 minutes to decide whether it was a clear and obvious call. It was just so frustrating, the amount of time it took when they had the semi-automated offsides, so they would have decided that very, very quickly. The images don't, I mean, look how pixelated the ball is in that image. It's so difficult to see the ball there. So very frustrating where they've decided to draw the line, or whether it's the right frame and all these kind of things. Did they even take into account the Sporting defender's leg? I can't see it. I don't know where his foot is. I haven't seen the other angle where his leg is. So that's also frustrating.
There is too much doubt. There's too much doubt everywhere in this picture. You know what I mean? There are so many different little things like you can question just by looking at that picture.
You know,
it's a joke.
They obviously they say the direction of the ball doesn't make a difference in offside, but it's still frustrating the fact the ball went backwards and it's still being given offside, and the fact it was literally the last kick of the game, and he blew the final whistle literally as soon as the game restarted, which was also very frustrating.
The fact of the matter, though, is no matter what you think of this decision, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke that we let it get to that stage. We should have won this game.
Yeah, we should have had it wrapped up. We should have had it wrapped up. Definitely. Of course we should have, and no doubt about it. We had the chances. I remember turning to you once Dyer missed that chance from Longley. It was inside the 6-yard box. All you had to do was get it on target. And I remember saying to you, like, we've had the chances to win this. Like, it's not a case of not creating. Like, for example, against Newcastle, I remember saying after the game, I don't know if I said it on stream or somewhere, I was like, look, I was so disappointed because in those last half an hour, once we got the goal, like we literally didn't create anything. And like, even if the keeper's made a few saves and you've given it a good go, you can kind of accept that. But we literally created no chances whatsoever. But against Lisbon, it was opposite. We had so many chances. We created loads. The keeper had a brilliant game. We missed so many gilt-edged chances that we only have ourselves to blame when it comes to not getting the result. Well, we created the chances for ourselves. But on the flip side, at least it's positive we did create the chances, and we were looking creative, and we went up until the very last second and we did actually get the goal, which obviously was ruled out, but like that shows the fight in this team and the character, which you have to take as a positive.
Yeah, you do. It's just very frustrating not to get over the line when we were so dominant as we were in that second half, and the whole VAR madness. But then obviously Conte gets sent off. There's a whole melee by the touchline and stuff like that. Conte gets sent off for being on the pitch, but everyone's on the pitch, so why doesn't he send off everyone?
If you heard Stellini after the game, he's like, why red card? It was everyone's on the pitch. Why are you sending him off? It's not a red card. And I understand what you're saying, because why has he singled him out?
But that ref, man, that ref is an absolute son of a bitch. I swear, his smile as he's smiling at Højbjerg and Conte and everyone while he's sending him off is, oh man, it makes me sick. It makes me sick. And it's the same referee team, the same officiating team that was in Madrid 19, the final in Madrid in the Champions League. So they've done us over twice now.
Yeah, I really don't want them ever again refereeing one of our games.
Guy's
so
face,
annoying.
though, I swear I had nightmares of that referee's face last night.
Oh, it's so annoying. The way he's just smiling in Dyer's face.
Oh my God, that up his own arse smile did me in yesterday. What a son of a bitch. Anyway, we need to move on, otherwise I'm going to go deeper and deeper into this ref. But look, I think that's the match review. Thank you everyone for joining us for that. We've got
go on.
We've got a super chat here from Scorpions fans for